Mayor live from Dover, New Hampshire. And here we are, the last day of the weekend coming up. And of course, this weekend is the memorial service for Charlie, who seems like it was just yesterday, and then it seems like it was a long time ago. There's a lot of concentration on this worldwide, and a lot of concentration on who did it, or why do they do it. It's pretty darn clear who did it. He did. It's pretty darn clear why he hated Charlie Kirk. It's pretty clear it was premeditated. He told his friend, whatever you call it, that he'd been planning it for a week. And it's pretty clear that he was under the influence of transgender and left-wing causes, and particularly groups like Armed Queers SLC, which immediately took its page down, its web page, as soon as the shooting took place. There also are several postings that took place within 2 or 3 days of Charlie's assassination, predicting that it would happen, and some more subtle than that. But there is and was in that area a very, very strong transgender movement that was radicalized. And the question is, how much was Antifa involved in it? We know that Armed Queers SLC was deeply involved in it. And of course, they very suspiciously took down their website. And there also are associations for Armed Queers SLC with the Communist Party, including communist operatives. The FBI has them under very, very deep investigation. We showed you the picture, I think we did, of this is her right here. If you want to see it, that's Urmaya Fanian. She is an Iraqi, an Iranian. She is an Iranian, I think, on the wrong side of the aisle, and she is an advocate of violence, and organized this group and several others. Pink Pistols is another one, and this group, which has the provocative name of Armed Queers SLC. Are they associated with Antifa? There has to be, or there most likely is an association between Antifa and the murderer, since the Ciao Ciao Bello song that he makes reference to, which the media elects to try to associate with the Italian resistance movement, meaning the resistance movement against Hitler, meaning what they call the anti-fascist movement. They really were, to a very large extent, a pro-communist movement. So there she is, founder of Armed Queers, Salt Lake City. I don't know what it says. Organizer with what's underlined there. I can't see that. I think that's down now. I think it's down now. I'm pretty sure it's down now. I'm not absolutely certain. She on our Instagram bio, she has revolution plus trans liberation. She's advocated violence to achieve the aims of the LGBTQ groups, citing the Stonewall riots as an example, Sometimes violence, protest, and really riots, and those kinds of loud rebellions must take place. That's her thinking. Now, how does that connect to the murder? Well, Ciao Bello, the press might want to associate with Italy. There it is, Ciao Bella Ciao. That probably is a picture of some kind of an Italian partisan going back 70 years. Or do you think it's more likely that where he got it was much closer to him, Salt Lake City, Utah, places like that, where that very chant is used all the time by Antifa and has been for 100 years? And one should also note that he I don't know how important it is, but he used the male version. That's the female version, Bella. He has Ciao Bello. Look, they're the ones who are all messed up on sex. So one has to take a look at it. But I do believe that the president's putting Antifa on the terrorist list is for a reason. And I think I have every reason to believe that they are at the very much being looked at as having an involvement in this. They sure as heck were the driving force really behind Black Lives Matter 4 years ago. How much violence did that create? 27 people dead.
Yeah.
Riots in about 80 places.
In a lot of places.
Billions of dollars worth of damage, a couple of thousand people in the hospital.
Right.
And you want to tell me this is not a violent group?
And maybe an individual who experienced that violence firsthand as a journalist joins the show now. Mayor Andy Ngo, of course, a best-selling author, a journalist, and an individual who's maybe done more deep research and reporting on Antifa.
No one has done more than Andy has.
And he joins the show.
Hello, Andy. How are you?
Hello, Mayor. Thanks for having me on.
It's a great honor to have you. I wanted to ask you, because there's so much discussion about Antifa. Over the last couple of years, it seems to me they've gotten very, very heavily involved in the transgender movement. I don't know, I use a mafia term like muscle, as the muscle for it. Am I way off base?
You're not. It's an observation I had as far back as 5 years ago. So Antifa is constantly, you can think of them as they mutate quite often. They have to be quite context specific, because how they recruit and radicalize has a lot to do with the propaganda. So the propaganda of today is different from 10 years ago. 10 years ago, BLM was extremely salient, and 2020 was the peak of it, in the sense that Black Lives Matter supporters and Antifa were able to join arms and enact acts of carnage and violence across the United States that resulted in the deaths of more than 24 people, as you mentioned, billions of damage to the American economy, and its consequences are still being felt today. There are some places like Portland, Oregon, where I'm originally from, that hasn't recovered from 5 years after the riots, by the way, in downtown. BLM has had a number of catastrophic PR scandals that has quite damaged them in the eyes of liberals. Financial scandals. They didn't benefit any Black lives. The only people that benefited were leaders and organizers who enriched themselves off of millions of dollars from stupid liberals who donated, thinking that they were helping racial justice. Now, post-2020, the Antifa shift has been more towards in the direction of amplifying trans militancy, trans revolution. And that's in the context of a number of US states who have passed legislation banning the transitioning of children, irreversible transitions, I might add, and surgeries. and that caused the trans militants to mobilize. And they are not subtle about their threats of violence. If you go to any of the Antifa demonstrations, the trans activist gatherings, they explicitly threaten to disembowel and slit the throats of their opponents and to shoot and kill and execute those who they say are fascists and Nazis and are committing genocide against them. And a lot of them are mentally unwell, and they've been encouraged, particularly post the 2024 election outcome, to join militias, to stockpile firearms and ammunition and carry out attacks. I mean, just in this summer, there were a number of trans militants who were allegedly part of a Antifa cell in North Texas, and they've been charged with domestic terrorism over a ambush shooting on an ICE facility in Alvarado, where an officer was shot in the neck, by the way.
So now, what do you have any sense of what the proximate cause was for the president to act now? I mean, you could have designated them a terrorist group 5 years ago, right?
Yeah, so I want people to remember that actually in 2020, he did make a very similar proclamation, but we had Attorney General Barr at that time, and we had a different head in the State Department, and they did nothing. And I don't like speaking ill of the cabinet members at that time, but they really did nothing. The federal government response during the BLM Antifa riots in 2020 were in the few cases, let's say in Portland, where there were federal charges, they got sweetheart plea deals, probation only, or deferred resolutions, where some of these really violent suspects would do community service, and then a short time later, they can actually get the charges dismissed and expunged from their record. So that was under Trump's DOJ during the first administration.
Right. That was
However,
the last year of his administration. Right.
That's right. So what's different now, though, is I think the proclamation by the president was made in the context of Mr. Charlie Kirk being assassinated by somebody who left on 2 out of 4 rifle cartridges Antifa messages. And I reported this out earlier. It's from my source, a source that I'm not who spoke on condition anonymity, that there are those in the government right now, in the administration, who are working to try to designate Antifa as a foreign terrorist organization, FTO, the legislation, the anti-terror legislation that came in the post 9/11 context. So this is actually very important, because an administration viewing a group or a network as a domestic terror group is, at the end of the day, symbolic, in that there's Congress doesn't have the power to ban any domestic organization in the US, because that would be a violation of First Amendment. However, how Antifa operate and organize is that they're decentralized networks, and they have links to international co-conspirators. And that's where an FTO designation would be very, very effective, because then individuals abroad can be sanctioned. People can be charged with terrorism crimes for the money laundering that happens, and how they will work with international co-conspirators to target government officials and other political targets. So there's a lot of tools. Domestically, what can be done right now is the DOJ can start looking at conspiracy and RICO charges.
It's really no different than saying they're an organized crime group.
Exactly.
Right now.
That's what they are.
But
Yes,
they have a long history as they really began overseas, right?
That's right. The contemporary manifestation has nothing to do with the Antifa paramilitary, the communists in the Weimar Republic. Like, there's not a direct line. The contemporary version started in the 80s in Germany. Well, actually, first in the 60s and 70s in Germany, among far left student activists, West Germany, I should say. And then later in the UK in the 80s, and then it took root in the American Midwest. So
they picked that name up. They weren't a direct descendant of it, but they used it because it gave them some legitimacy.
They use correct for legitimacy, and they're able to appropriate a history that's not theirs, and it's helpful in the propaganda messaging. You see it now, actually, in the media reporting. Commentators on the left are raising questions like, well, if you're against Antifa, what does that make you? That makes you pro-fascist. It makes you an anti-Semite. It makes you a Nazi. So just on the pure rhetoric, it's very effective.
Yes.
Yeah, but people need to think of them as how they think of radical Islam. And Mary, you know this well, that radical Islam can be or can organize into cells and groups and international groups, but it can be also the radicalized individual who consumes propaganda and takes up some type of firearm or other weapon or a car to carry out a domestic terrorist attack on the homeland without any type of international travel or training involved. So you have to think of Antifa in that way.
And what involvement is there of the communists with them? There are identified communists that are involved with them, but is that a direct involvement or?
Antifa is adjacent to the radical communists in that they're anarchist communists. So they emphasize the anarchy aspect more than the communists. How they're different from traditional revolution communist terrorists that we saw in America, like in the 60s with the Weather Underground, is that Antifa today they're not like closely allied with Cuba, for example, or China, in the sense that they would work with the communist state actor to try to subvert America. They're much more interested in anarchist politics, which is why they really want to systematically attack all of the institutions of America, as well as the Constitution and the idea of what America is. So it's a different form of subversion than Americans are familiar with. You know, we have a long history of understanding communism, but in terms of violent extremist anarchism, there's less understanding of that, at least in the mainstream public eye.
Now, what do you know about this group called Armed Queers, SLC, that took down its website just about right after Charlie was assassinated, and operates in that area very, very openly with this Iranian woman who quite openly advocates for violence?
So the leader of that group is a trans activist, and that's no coincidence. The Armed Queers SLC is part of a network of left-wing militias. They really only have been around for about 10 years in terms of their massive growth. It really coincided with the first election win of Donald Trump because of all the lies and propaganda about how America had elected a fascist, and therefore people needed to train to resist. So on the surface, in terms of their messaging, they say that they're a left-wing alternative to the National Rifle Association, that they're just about Second Amendment rights and learning self-defense. But if you just peel back just a little bit, and you can see how they actually organize, it's about revolution and armed offensive resistance against not just the state, but their perceived political enemies. And there's already been a number of violent shooting attacks from members of various chapters of these militias. The John Brown Gun Club is another very similar militia that organizes under far left gun advocacy and so-called self-defense, which is not really what they do. In 2019, there was a gunman, an Antifa gunman. He actually left behind a manifesto in Tacoma, Washington, about 2 hours north of Portland, that he carried out a shooting and an explosives attack on the ICE facility there. This didn't get much media attention. He tried to blow up the very large propane tank that was attached to the building. He had a homemade rifle, a ghost gun that he made, and he died in the shootout with law enforcement. And it was discovered afterwards that he had sent out a manifesto to his comrades. Of course, they didn't contact law enforcement. In it, he describes himself as Antifa. And in the closing part of the manifesto, he uses the same lyrics to the Bella Ciao song, which is the same Antifa and communist song that was referenced on one of the rifle cartridges allegedly used or made by the Charlie Kirk assassin suspect.
So things are very different than they were when you were under attack back 4 or 5 years ago. I think we have, with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, and I think we have an FBI that's going to go after them quite legitimately. And the way I remember the FBI working with me to go after the mafia. So I'm hopeful that we're going to be able to get to the bottom of just exactly who they are and bring out some sunshine on them. They've been particularly good at hiding themselves. So you end up with statements like the stupid statement Biden made that they're an idea, not a group, right? They're a group that does a very good job of not being transparent and obviously organized. It's very hard to follow them. So you're going to have good law enforcement. And we had no law enforcement back when you were being so horribly treated.
That's right. Here's how to think of them. Antifa is not an organization in terms of a singular one, but they are organized. And there are so many cells and networks, and it can be a larger group, like in Portland, Rose City Antifa, which is an organized group, and they call themselves an organization, and you can go on their website and get in contact to join them. Or you can be an individual who's just been radicalized by the propaganda that Antifa put on into the ether, into social media, and there's a lot of it, accounts, influencers, the PDF files and instruction manuals on how to carry out acts of violence. So, I mean, the FBI has a very huge task on their hands just because I think that in prior administrations, this type of violent extremist threat was really ignored, probably for political reasons. It's you're not going to get nice headlines, as we're seeing now, if you dare to oppose Antifa, because the Democrats have a symbiotic relationship with them. They don't. Neither side wants to acknowledge one another, but they both benefit. Antifa's violence thrives in Democrat jurisdictions because liberal judges, left-wing prosecutors, police chiefs who are under political pressure from a left-wing mayor, all of that is to the benefit of Antifa, which is why in places like Portland or Seattle, their violence really thrives, that they can get arrested 6, 7, 8, 9 times in the course of months of rioting and have the charges not pursued by the DA's office every time.
You know, I was surprised recently to hear from people from Portland how bad it still is. I had just sort of put it out of my mind and thought, well, gosh, they probably straightened themselves out by now. But things are pretty bad in Portland right now. I see Douglas Murray, he reported on that last year. I think he went undercover for a day or two there. They're still pretty active in Portland.
Douglas Murray actually just had a new piece that came out in the New York Post. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but it's about
he quotes
Antifa as a terrorist movement. And he was in Portland undercover during the 2020 riots. The violence that's ongoing right now as we speak, has been happening for months in relation to Antifa and far left attacks on the ICE facility, with the support of many on city council. The mayor of Portland just 2 days ago announced that the city is going to pursue sanctions against ICE because of these alleged violations that he listed out. So, like I said, the Democrats use Antifa as their shock troops. Actually, they do, because they share the same enemy and have some similar goals. For example, attacking ICE, attacking the enforcement of U.S. federal immigration laws. All that, Antifa and Democrats are on the same page on that. So, yeah.
Well, Andy, thank you very much for sharing this with us, and thank you for your tremendous bravery. I admire you so much. And take care of yourself.
Thank you. And those interested in
there it is.
Thank you.
An excellent book. I've read it twice. I could read it a third time. I probably have to read it a third time.
And Mayor, we've talked about Antifa throughout from the beginning of this show when we started 3 years ago. Andy, what can people learn about Antifa by getting this book? What can they learn that maybe they haven't seen in some of the coverage?
The history, the origins, the tactics, the type of weapons that they'll bring, everything is meant to be done through deception. I'll just bring up one example. Like in 2020, when I was undercover, I saw, and the riots happened in the summer. It started in the summer, I should say. It was very hot. And Antifa would pass out frozen water bottles, which on its surface looks like, okay, it'll melt throughout the night and they'll have something cold to drink. No, the bottles were used as rock solid projectiles to throw at the head of their targets,
remember,
throw at the
yeah.
head of federal law enforcement, protecting the U.S. federal courthouse in downtown, which was set on fire, which had a fence around it that was toppled down, pulled down by the rioters. I mean, people talk about insurrection against federal government property from the 6th of January. Why did they have nothing to say about what had happened a few months prior in a major American city?
Well,
Yeah.
I second what you said, Ted. That's something that now, again, even if you've read it before, you should get it and read it again, because it's relevant to what I think it's going to turn out to be very relevant to what happened here. But God bless you, Andy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. That was quite a riveting interview. What a guy. U.S. Army Major Scott Smiley paid a high price serving our nation. Scott was leading his platoon in Iraq when a blast sent shrapnel through his eyes, leaving him blind and temporarily paralyzed. Scott would become the first blind active duty military officer before medically retiring years later. Thanks to friends like you, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation gave Scott and his family a mortgage-free, specially adapted smart home. Show your support for America's heroes now. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast. These deals are selling.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee. This is Rudy Giuliani back again. I have to say, you know, we're just sitting here like probably you talking about the interview with Andy. I think you all know Andy because he was very, very prominent during 2020, as you can see from the pictures that were put up. He almost got killed.
He almost got killed.
And as I said, I know for some reason a couple of people that have been undercover in Antifa, but there's nobody that knows it better than him. And he stayed in touch with all of this, and he's been a real warrior for preserving American civilization. Really, these people, they're trying to. The overall goal here is to destroy. When we say you destroy America, what does that mean? You have to subdivide it a little, right? America's a big thing, right? It means destroying our form of government. They're against, they're against it. Biden governed as a dictator. For example, I'm under indictment for my words. I was sued for my words.
For defending your
My
client.
law license was taken away for things I said, all contrary to him. Right? All of it. And I also happen to be the person that I am the person that knows more about his criminality than anyone else on earth, because I'm the one who uncovered it. It had been going on for 40 years and nobody else uncovered it. I also uncovered the hard drive, so I'm like a twofer. And they attempted in every way they could, short of doing what they tried to do to the president, which is shoot at him. And I'm sorry if you think I'm being irresponsible in saying that, but my every instinct I have as an investigator and a prosecutor and a sensible, logical person tells me that in some way, and I'm not exactly sure I can define who they are, just like we don't really know who was running the government when Biden was president. We know some group was. Maybe the AutoPen was running the government. AutoPen could have been given AI, and it decided who got pardoned and not. So I also, if you want to follow up, I also refer you to Douglas Murray's column today in the Post, in which he talks about the president designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. He quite literally points out that this murderer has made quite clear what his motive was, and all this stuff from these left wingers about we don't know what the motive is completely insane. I mean, he did it because he had enough of Charlie Kirk's hatred. The bullets that we used were literally carved with Antifa slogans. This is a guy who would know what he's talking about. He's gone undercover in Antifa, and he describes the murderer and his lover as living in a Reddit-style subculture. Anyone who says that there are two biological sexes is literally a genocide inducing or inducing genocide for trans people. So you become the enemy. If you believe in what it says in the first chapter of the first book of Genesis, that there's only man and woman, well then you're in favor of genocide of trans people. Antifa is simply the most organized and consistently violent of these front groups, now becoming a front group for the unfortunately, that aspect of the trans movement that is quite violent. And it is. It is not an accident. The last 2 or 3 mass murderers were involved with the trans subculture. And if we go back to about 2019, 2018, we can count about 8 of them. If we were talking here about a singular murder, we'd be talking about either an organization or a group that's like a racketeering enterprise. And when you look at these groups like these armed queers and groups like that, they much more so than groups like them in the past, have taken up violence very, very quickly. And they train people in using guns, and they encourage it. So Douglas goes back to when he went undercover in Portland, Oregon, where they had created an autonomous zone where Antifa was in charge. They had black uniforms. They almost always wear masks, so you don't know who they are. Over the course of their control of Portland, they have shot up businesses that they consider MAGA, and that's a very loose definition. It's anybody that doesn't agree with them or anybody that supports Trump. And Douglas comes to the conclusion, I'll let you read it yourself, that this is really very, very strange, but it is what communism is all about. These are the real fascists. Antifa says it's a fascist, but this is pure and simple, violent fascism, except for the fact that they're communists. Not so strange. The Nazis were socialists. At the extremes, they meet because they're nihilists. They want to destroy people. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in basic human morals. They want absolute power for themselves. And they'll actually utilize any philosophy or any way of thinking or justifying anything in pursuance of their goal of taking you over. And that's what we are contending with. And I can say that the assassination of Charlie has brought this all out in the open. And there's nothing, I don't know, you can't say something like something good came from it or something. We're going to have to see what happens. There's nothing good that comes from taking the life of a man at 31 years old with what he's done and will be able to do. But those of us who come after him, we're just going to just intensify our effort, and nothing's going to stop us. I mean, you know, you can't scare us. So go stick your guns up your, you know what. So Israel has now basically closed off Gaza City, and they're in what I would have to say, they're getting pretty close to the objective of wiping out Hamas to the extent that you can wipe them out. And as several people on their side have said, this is going to require also, I mean, you can't just wipe them out and say it's all over. And that's why both the president and Netanyahu resist Palestinians having control over that area for a while. Because if they get control over it, it's going to go right back to where it was. This has happened before to Israel, where they've solved the problem, taken their eye off the ball, and then all of a sudden Hezbollah becomes a monster, or Hamas becomes a monster, or Syria, or Yemen, the Houthis in Yemen. So when they get this down to elimination or close to elimination, then there's going to have to be follow-up efforts over the next 8 to 10 years to make sure that they've really been taken out of the body politic. Or as Yaakov Katz says today, stay on offense, stay on offense. Now, there was a murder yesterday at the Allenby Bridge. The Allenby Bridge is quite historic because it was the bridge to which a lot of people came to freedom. And it's the bridge that connects Jordan and Israel. And so yesterday, 2 Israelis, a young man and an older man, 20 and 60, were killed by a Jordanian who was transporting, I want you to listen to this, because there is so much propaganda about this. And what they've done to the Israeli people is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace in the way in which they've flipped this whole thing so that we even have Republicans that are confused about this. And we have within our own party people who are confused about this. The guy who did this killing was a Jordanian. I'm going to guess he's a Palestinian who lived in Jordan. But in any event, the most important thing is he was driving a humanitarian relief truck, but he killed people. Where do you think that humanitarian relief was going? Somebody who's going to deliver humanitarian relief to poor people who are starving isn't carrying a gun looking around to kill people. This is the whole point. They're in control. Unless Israel or the U.S. runs the humanitarian system, they don't get the relief to their people. They'd rather see their people die and blame it on Israel. You don't get it. They don't think of life the way you do. If they thought of life the way you did, they wouldn't put 55 children above them and have their headquarters below. Or I am absolutely convinced that 25% of whatever the actual civilian number is Hamas or the other groups in Palestine killing their own people and then putting it on the Israeli list. Because we don't have any control over it. We can't audit it. And they are, it's 50 years of one lie going back to Arafat after another. So these two Israelis were slain at the Jordanian border. I think just civilians, just shot by a guy who I will guarantee you was trained from the time he was 2 years old to kill Jews, as are all Palestinians. I said all Palestinians. So when you start talking about a Palestinian state, will you please go to the local mental institution? Because you're too dangerous to be involved with serious people. Well, the president's trip was quite successful, Ted. I think this was one of the most successful trips ever. What do you think? Do you agree? I do. Here's a lovely picture that I pulled out. Our beautiful, magnificent, royal-like First Lady, and I guess the next Queen of England. Kate will eventually be queen when her husband takes the throne. Hard to find two women more beautiful than that, right? But I think it's remarkable how Donald Trump has re-energized the special relationship with Great Britain. For a guy who was going to ruin all our relationships with Europe, they're coming over here hoping to be part of it. I think they want to be part of his press conferences, Ted. It's probably more around the press, swat down the flies. It's like he has a fly swatter. And I know, I do know him quite well, so I know he loves this. Remember, this kid spent his high school as a cadet at the New York Military Academy. See how straight he's standing? He loves this. Now, there are people who went through that and probably hate it, right? But I know he loves it. Look at his face. This is like me at an opera.
Right.
And they know he loves it.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm going to ask him when we get to talk to him if this was the best he's ever seen.
Oh, yeah, as far as trips go.
I mean, I don't know. He's seen some great ones. And, our military academies put on tremendous reviews.
You want to hear some from the king?
Where the hell did he get all those medals?
The king, right?
What are those big fat ones? Those stars. What is he, a sheriff?
Mr. President, as we
Sheriff of Nottingham.
Sheriff of Nottingham.
Anniversary of the Declaration of Independence next year, it is remarkable to think just how far we have come. I cannot help but wonder what our forebears from 1776 would make of this friendship today. The rebel commander and pioneering first president, George Washington, famously vowed never to set foot on British soil. And my 5 times great-grandfather, King George III, for his part, did not spare his words when he spoke of the revolutionary leaders. Today, however, we celebrate a relationship between our two countries that surely neither Washington nor King George III could possibly have imagined. The ocean may still divide us, but...
Because I can't understand what he's saying. He's
Too
mumbling.
soft. Sorry. Yeah,
I'm sorry, King.
no, that's more on us. Yeah, the volume there was soft.
No, it isn't. Have you ever
It's
listened
soft.
to Charles?
Oh, have you met him?
I have not met Charles, no.
But if you did, you probably didn't hear
I
him.
met the Queen, of course, when she made me an honorary knight, and I
gonna
met
find that
I've
video.
met Andrew, and I met William, and I don't think I've ever met Charles. I don't think so.
So he kind of mumbles when he talks a little bit, you're saying.
But I'm talking about. I mean, I listen to him, and he tends to mumble a bit.
Drone
I
on.
thought the Queen was the Queen was always very clear.
More
Look,
sharp.
I find the English accent, could be me too. I find it difficult. So even when I used to listen to
in a particular hospital.
yeah,
Let's say
and stuff like
against something
always.
in a crowded city. So I resolved as a result of that, as far as I can.
Was that the party that was given for me when
Yeah.
I was knighted?
I really do believe that this honor, which is a great one, is for the people of the city of New York. I also have to say that because if I go back to Brooklyn and tell them I've been knighted and ever ask them to refer to me as sir, oh boy, something like this will happen. Hey, what's this sir stuff? What are you, some kind of big shot?
I hope they weren't offended by my making fun of it.
I know my city.
I tell you though, I do. For somebody that's a revolutionary, because I'm in favor of the Americans in the Revolutionary War. I guess they handled after we beat them twice in 1812. They gave up, right?
Was this 2002?
All right.
Was this in 2002? Was this
that
in
was in 2003.
2003? Okay, you're right.
Was it? No, wait.
Well, I said that's me writing that. So
No, that was 2002. Yeah. Yeah, that was like March, April of 2002. Yes. That's Tommy Von Essen. See him?
Congratulated me. She's on my leadership during a very
On the other side is Bernie.
horrible time. She said it must have been hard and awful. She said that she had watched a lot of what happened.
Yeah, look at the
What I had
UK
done,
now.
and that she wanted to express her admiration. And I told her that I was receiving it on behalf of not myself, but all of the police officers and firefighters and rescue workers and heroic people in New York. I thanked her very much for the support, the love and the generosity of the people of Britain, because more than most, they really came to our aid and our comfort. And I said at times like that, when you're under tremendous stress and attack, you need friends, and we had no better friend than Great Britain. And then she said to me, when we concluded, I hope you're having less stress now. And I told her I was.
well, we could keep playing that.
Yeah, that was nice. That was a nice day.
You could see.
And do you know my uncle was there?
You could so see
Well, I
how.
saw him get so many medals in the police department. I wanted to let him see me get one. My uncle Rudy was there.
Yep.
I brought him over.
When I see that guy, I see the exact same guy I see every day.
You know who else was
Same
there?
guy.
Randy Levine, the president of the Yankees. He came over.
Yeah.
And Bernie, of course. The picture, Bernie was on the other side, and the picture just showed that side. Oh, there's Prince Andrew. Ooh. No, I'm not on the list. I do not know that guy. What's his name? Epstein. I'm gonna get a subpoena now. You guys have to show that. I'm gonna get a subpoena.
Wow, but that must have been a special.
Time.
Yes, it was. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
So the president's trip, we had to play a little bit of the mayor's trip, but the president's trip, all around a great success.
Yeah, I think we should play the president's trip. It's a little more current.
A little more current.
Well, of course.
Well, I want people to get ready to switch over to Lindell TV in order to see Dr. Maria, who is going to be covering a good deal about the ceremony that's coming up, and Charlie. I just want to make sure we've covered the things that we wanted to cover. The president and Xi, the chairman of the Red Chinese Atheistic Homicidal Communist Party, had a long conversation today. Apparently, they're getting closer on TikTok. I really just wish they'd kick it out. Number two, there's going to be a meeting between them. And one report said China, and the other said in Korea. So I don't know that. I don't think it's been said. And the president described it as getting closer, or if not, made a deal on TikTok and getting closer. And the Chinese put out some kind of a nasty thing about how they warn all companies to make sure I presume American companies follow Chinese law. They're so gracious. Atheistic communists are not gracious. And that guy Z, I'm glad it was a telephone call, because if you shake his hand, you're going to get a lot of the blood on yours, of the thousands and thousands and thousands of his own people that he's killed, and the Uyghur people who he's trying to wipe out completely, and the Falun Gong whose organs he's pulling out of their bodies in order to sell them. The man is a savage beast. I know you have to talk to him. I'm glad it's not me. The last conversation I had with a Chinese communist, he walked out of the room on me because I insulted him. I just told him that I thought, I didn't think Taiwan would want to join them after working so hard to become a democracy. Why the hell would they want to join you? Well, because you did to Hong Kong, you double-crossed them. Taiwan has every reason to believe you double-crossed them too. Because he wanted me to go tell President Bush that he should soften his position on Taiwan. I said, you should change your position on Taiwan. And my interpreter did not interpret it correctly. So the guy's smiling at me. And I'm wondering, why the hell is he smiling at me? What is some kind of a nitwit? So then his interpreter. So then I got my interpreter. I said, what happened? He said he didn't interpret it correctly. He left out that whole part about how, why would Taiwan want to join you after what you did to Hong Kong?
Insist that they reinterpreted it.
Yeah,
to
then
him?
I got thrown out.
And then they
basically I got thrown out of the room. I got thrown out of China. And the next time when I had to go back, they didn't give me my visa until the day before maybe the day that I left. And they put like 4 days on it. If I had stayed over one more day, they'd have put me in jail. The Chinese and the Ayatollah doesn't like me either. He's tried to kill me twice, and I have any number of fatwas, but we can't collect them all because some of them come from meaningless fatwa issues. All these imams go around writing out, kill this one, kill that one, kill this one, kill that one. They like to kill. Well, Muhammad did, so why not? Yeah.
So could that explain why Fox News doesn't like to have truth tellers like yourself on? Because they I don't know,
I mean, it could be. I mean, I think
they're fronting for their
I
relationship.
think they suck up. I mean, the corporate interests
China.
there suck up big time to China.
And
I think that's why they turned on Trump.
Isn't that something about the country you all live in? Think
Remember,
about that.
I mean, they turned completely on Trump. But you remember, Ted,
Mm-hmm.
when we first started doing the show, they were DeSantis today, DeSantis tomorrow, and DeSantis the next day.
Yeah, like an on-off switch.
And
They can turn you
and
on
then
or off.
and then they were going in and testifying that we didn't really think the election was stolen, and what a bunch of horseshit. I mean, the one good thing I have that they don't have is I can look myself in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And the election was stolen. I told the truth.
Right.
You're all going to find out someday that I did. You already found out mostly that I did.
Yeah.
I told you the truth about Russian collusion, right? Told you the truth about the hard drive.
Even if you're in denial, you still recognize the truth. I know that about people.
So NVIDIA has bought 4% of Intel. Now, why is that significant? That's significant because the president got a lot of criticism from very, very rigid conservatives who would say the government shouldn't be buying up these companies because it's like government ownership of the companies. Stop it. The government isn't going to run Intel. The government isn't controlling it. The government's putting money in order to grow it because we have to stay ahead of China. We have to have super chips. And the company that's ahead of China is NVIDIA. And Intel is falling behind. So NVIDIA just took a controlling interest in Intel. You know what that means? You know who made that deal? Who figured that out? The guy they torture all the time. And the reason they put their 4% in, because America put money in from our fund. Now, China has a fund. Singapore has a fund. Emirates, Saudi Arabia. After a while, these funds make a fortune.
Thank you,
Maybe they'll
Donald
make
Trump.
so much money we won't have to have taxes. So please, just because Trump does it, it doesn't mean it's wrong. In fact, it might turn out because Trump does it, it's right.
Thank you, President Trump.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that every time.
So yesterday was a record high for Wall Street. Well, he was going to ruin the economy, right? Today it came down a little, but for the month.
Thank you, President Trump.
There was a big demonstration yesterday. I wish I could show it to you, but I really want you to go listen to Dr. Maria in New York. It was a peaceful demonstration because these are peaceful people. They're not left-wingers. And they were demonstrating for choice in education. You see, Democrats allow you to have choice to kill babies.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't have choice in education because that'll screw up the teachers' union.
It'll make you smart.
And now we just have these tests that come out where the public schools in New York are plummeting. And the studies are being done, the more money they get, the worse they get. The only schools that are succeeding are the charter schools that are free of the teachers' union. So who's the enemy? The teachers' union. Who are the Democrats with? The teachers' union. You know why these people are demonstrating? Because in Democrat communist New York, there's a limit on the number of charter schools. You can't have any more than the ones you have now. And they're the ones that are succeeding. Does that make any sense to you? Of course it doesn't. Unless you hate Black people and Hispanics, who are the ones that are suffering the most from it. And the majority of Black and Hispanic Democrat politicians double-cross their people. So take a look at that. All these people.
Here it is, thousands.
70% of the Black community wants vouchers in New York and in America. 90% of the Black Democrat politicians are against it. You tell me if they're representing their own people, or they double-cross them the way they double-cross them on crime. I want to finish the show this week, first by giving my condolences to the family of Sergeant Cody Becker and Detective Mark Baker and Detective Isaiah Emmenheiser of the Northern York County Regional Police Force, who was slaughtered in the line of duty in dealing with a domestic dispute. My heart goes out to their families, to their fellow officers, to their citizens. These are, again, very, very special people. And your great cause, because if you watch the show, it's a cause for you. Tunnel to Towers has been there already to pay for the mortgages for the homes of these wonderful patriots and officers. And our hearts go out to them. And I thank the governor, Governor Shapiro, for going out of his way to visit with these families at the critical moment when they lost their lives and were suffering through it, and gave them the sense. I remember what Father Judge told me: what happens when you go, Mayor, you don't understand it. You don't know who you are. You don't think of yourself as the mayor. You walk into their house and you may be the most important person that's walked into their house. And that's probably true with Governor Shapiro. He probably doesn't think that way. Look, I disagree with him probably on everything but this, but I saw like when he talked about this, I saw a good man. I did. If you can feel for police officers, you're not all bad. And of course, we'll end and say something about our friend who I wish I could bring back. Don't you wish sometimes you had the power to bring people back?
Yes.
Maybe we could just talk it over. Did this have to really happen? Did it really have to happen? Well, we begin with his children. You know, they were there.
That's crazy. You know,
I just think that given who he was and is and what he leaves behind and that wonderfully strong, brilliant wife that he has, these kids will come out okay.
thank God they were so young and they
They'll
really
come
won't
out
remember.
okay. They'll be hurt, but they'll find a way to grow from it. You know, the idea that if you get knocked down, you either stay down or you get up and you're better. This is a family that's going to get better. I think it's a country that's going to get better too as a result of Charlie. You can see it already. We'll see if tomorrow, or is it Sunday? I'm sorry, Sunday, more people go back to church like they did last week. It was in the Catholic churches, the Protestant churches, the evangelical churches, the Jewish synagogues. It was quite discernible all over the country. So let's see. What among other things, what a legacy that would be, huh? To bring people back to God. It's the one thing that I can't, I mean, I can figure out how, even though it's going to take a while, how we can remedy education. I can figure out for sure how to remedy law enforcement. I did it. I can figure out how we can remedy the media. We're doing it. And so many other things, the economy, the president's doing it. But the most important thing we have to do is to bring God back. And that's an individual decision that everybody has to make. Boy, I think this accelerated it. It's a shame it had to be accelerated this way. But sometimes it requires something like this.
Yeah,
to knock it into somebody's thick skull. When I was on an earlier show talking about this, I was thinking that, at least to me, the first time I realized that we were in deep, deep trouble from a religious perspective was when the pandemic took place and they closed down Easter and the High Holy Days and said you couldn't go to church and you couldn't go to the synagogue. Who the hell are they to tell me I can't go to church? Maybe I needed God more than I needed to be protected against the pandemic. I sure did need God more than their advice, which probably led to unbelievable numbers of additional deaths. But here's what I didn't like. The churches didn't fight back. The Catholic Church, the Episcopal Church, the Methodist Church, the Lutheran Church, none of them stood up. The synagogues didn't stand up and say, it's our high holy days. It's like the churches have become establishment. They want to be woke. Jesus wasn't woke. Far from it. The Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees were woke. Go over to Lindell TV. Stay tuned. We'll probably be on. I know we're going to be on with Steve Bannon, and we'll maybe do our own broadcast special for Charlie. Keep praying and keep thinking. There are a lot of ways we can grow from this, both internally and externally, spiritually and as a country. And pray for the people of Ukraine, and pray for the people of Israel, pray for the people of Iran, our special causes. Pray for the people of America, a very special cause, and our very, very special one, President Trump. Yes, he needs prayer. Of course he does. Probably more than anyone. First of all, to keep him safe, then to keep him strong. So, thank you, Ted, Rob.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, let's keep growing, no matter what, toward a more perfect union. God bless America.
It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,